UFO Abduction in Japan by Charles Lear. From Japan comes a case originally investigated by renowned Japanese researcher Kinichi Arai. This writer was unable to locate any sources other than blogs written about the case many years later, but it's worth sharing. According to the account on the site Great Plains Paranormal, reader mode is strongly suggested. At around 3 a.m. on April 6, 1974, Hokkaido farmer Yoshihiro Fujiwara was awakened by a loud knocking on his door and the barking and howling of his dog. He opened the door and almost collided with a 3-meter-tall creature, another account describes it as being 3 feet tall, wearing a transparent vinyl suit. The creature looked like a cross between a human and a cephalopod, with 4 tentacle-like processes from the waist down. It had a large head and slanted eyes, 2 long slits for nostrils, and seemed to be wearing a helmet. Its skin was uneven brown and bumpy like a toad's. The creature stood on 2 of the tentacles and used the other 2 like arms, and all of them terminated in a shoe-like pod. The creature was silent, but the antenna sticking up from its helmet hummed and crackled with electricity. Fujiwara stood still in stunned silence. The creature lifted one of its tentacles and pointed at the sky. Fujiwara was then suddenly bathed in a warm blue light. Fujiwara snapped out of his stunned reverie, ran back into the house, and shut the door. He looked out of a window and saw a disc-shaped object with an orange light coming out of it, hovering close to the ground. Then some sort of force pulled his legs towards the window. He fought against it, and was then pulled with his hands dragging on the floor. He was lifted up and pulled towards the disc, and then into it, where he landed on a hard metal floor. He was in a room that smelled awful. It had a blue glow, and there were inscriptions on the walls. 2 creatures, like the one that first confronted him, appeared and told him telepathically that he was safe and that they would bring him back. Fujiwara wasn't convinced and began to run. He was grabbed, dragged, and then thrown out an open hatch. Fujiwara fell 10 meters but didn't break any bones. He figured out that he was about 2 miles from home. He knew a man that lived nearby, and he ran to his house. When he got there and looked at the man's clock, he realized that an hour had gone by. The next day, sitting at home, he felt a sharp pain filling his body that seemed to be entering through his fingers and ears. He got a sheet of paper and started drawing the craft and writing down strange hieroglyphics. As he was doing this, he heard a voice in his head telling him to come to the disc when it is on the mountain. He got a picture in his head that he recognized as Mount Nikoro. Fujiwara traveled to the mountain with 2 friends, telling them they were going on a hike. He separated from them, was taken aboard the craft, and flown around the Earth and the Moon, which took an hour. After this, Fujiwara started claiming he'd been given the power to move objects with his eyes and bend spoons with his mind. He claimed to have gone on another trip on April 13, 1974, around Jupiter, and that the craft landed on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. Fujiwara turned the rock over to scientists for analysis, and their conclusion was that it was a common mineral from one of the local caves. He was ridiculed because of this, and his story lost its credibility. Fujiwara continued making claims, saying that he was developing telepathic powers and the abilities to predict disasters and teleport himself. Because Kinichi Arai's case files are housed at the International UFO Lab in Fukushima, this writer reached out to them via email for any documentation on the case. In the spirit of their dedication to international cooperation, they sent him a response entirely in Japanese.
Available June 2022 from Flying Disc Press. A book about the people involved in the mystery, covering the golden age of flying saucers. Using newsletters, magazines, case files, official documents and more. Sure to leave even the die-hard skeptic wondering. By Charles Lear, New York, USA. The Flying Saucer Investigators. Available on Amazon from June 2022. The Flying Saucer Investigators. Flying Disc Press.